All right, all right. Welcome everyone to module number five, which is mastering the Bitcoin 4-year cycle. Let me know if you can hear me. If you are here live, please let me know in the chat. Just say hello. Let me know you can hear me, which is the main thing. Awesome, awesome. Thanks so much. Thank you, Laurie. Thank you, Angela, Rebecca, and Chaz. Roger, Johan, Margaret. Thank you, Derek. Thanks, Ross, Eva. Everyone saying hello in the chat. Thank you so much. Thank you, Judy. Can hear you well. Appreciate it. It's always a good thing. Quite often you don't want to do a recording and then no one's been able to hear anything. So thank you for commenting. Now, if you are watching this as a recording, welcome as well to module number five. We are doing this module series as live recordings because it's always great to have a live audience. And also, this live audience has been fantastic because they're asking lots of great questions, often a lot of things that you may have slipped your mind to potentially put in the slides. So please keep asking your great questions and thank you very much. Yes, this is module number five that we are moving into. And this is, as I said before, mastering the Bitcoin 4-year cycle. All right. So a very important and crucial module, this one. So this really is the key to the crypto markets as it stands right now. Now, I used those last words very importantly, so I want you to listen to those last words that I said. I said this is really is the key to the crypto markets as it stands right now. Now, I'm always talking about adapting and adopting to new, to whatever the market gives us, to whatever the market kind of serves up. Okay. So it is extremely crucial to be adapting to whatever the market brings. Now, at the moment, and you're going to learn this from this module. So once again, if you are a potential intermediate or an advanced user of Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, you may have already heard a lot of these things before. But if you are a beginner, which this program is aimed towards, I'm really hoping it's going to open a lot of doors for you and kind of click some things together. Okay, because if you don't know this, if you don't understand this, if you don't understand how this Bitcoin 4-year cycle works, then what you are literally is what we call in investing is called dumb money. Okay, and when you are dumb money, you're going to enter at levels that quite simply are not going to sustain, and the market is going to go down. Okay. So we want to ensure that you are buying at the right times, and then you're also exiting for profit at the right times as well. So when we do this, it's important to understand that that this is a extremely crucial part of the journey in learning about the cycle, right? And obviously, this is the Pentagon number one step. Okay, so obviously we're going to be covering cycle, narrative, portfolio, timing, and multiple. But number one is cycle, and there's a reason why it's number one. And it's the first cab off the rank, right? Because it is so extremely important. Like I said before, if you don't know and understand the Bitcoin 4-year cycle, unfortunately, so many people who don't know and understand it, they get what we call wrecked, okay, in this market. And what that essentially means is that you're going to be in a position that you're going to purchase at the top, and then yeah, unfortunately, the market's going to go down, and it could take considerable amount of time, sometimes years, before it gets back to the areas of where you bought in, right? So we want to be ensuring that we're not buying at the wrong time and selling at the wrong time. We want to be buying at the right time and obviously selling at the right time as well. So the Bitcoin 4-year cycle, this is a very, very big deal. Make sure you watch all of this module, especially if you are a beginner. I cannot stress this enough. This is where the rubber really starts hitting the road. I want you guys to really take this module in. Make sure you watch every slide and learn as much as you can, because knowing this will give you an unfair advantage. All right, it'll give you an unfair advantage in the markets. It'll give you the opportunity to be able to capitalize and be the smart money, right? Obviously, we want to be the smart money. We do not want to be the dumb money, right? The smart money understands how cycles work and how market cycles work. And the smart money enters at the right times and exits at the right times as well. This can change the way that you approach investing hopefully throughout your investment career, right? Your investment future. We want to ensure that we're creating, especially if you're a beginner, we're creating the right practices, the right behaviors. So therefore, when you go through your investment career, you can approach this in the same way and understand that us humans, all right, us human beings, we are very, very cyclical creatures, right? We love cycles, okay? And 4 years seems to be one that we kind of really like as well. Now, there's a few theories behind why there's a Bitcoin 4 year cycle, but even if you look outside of cryptocurrency, I mean, we've got the Olympics every 4 years. There's leap years every 4 years. The world's largest sporting event, the World Cup of football or soccer, is every 4 years. So it is a quite a common theme that we have going on here. This 4 year cycle, for the people who have mastered this Bitcoin 4 year cycle and have been able to do it over multiple cycles, it's created many crypto millionaires. Now, most people won't do anything with what I'm going to teach you in the next hour, okay? Over this next 60 minutes, most people won't do anything. For some of you, this will be a massive point a massive turning point, I should say, a real sliding door moment, shall we say, especially as a beginner. I know that when I learned about the true power of market cycles and how the Bitcoin 4 year cycle works, I know that I really was blown away, shall we say, right? I learned about this oh, geez, would it be about 7 years ago now, around 2017-ish period of time, and it just absolutely blew me away. So, as I said, if you're an intermediate or an advanced Bitcoin or cryptocurrency user, we may be covering some things once again in this topic that you may think, well, I already know this, I already know this, I already know this, but hopefully there's some things you pick up. But as a beginner, which obviously is what this program is aimed towards, I really feel that you're going to get the absolute most out of this. So let's start with the halving, right? Let's start with what's called the Bitcoin halving, okay? Now, the Bitcoin halving is essentially something that's been built into the Bitcoin code, right? It's been built into the Bitcoin code and it's set in stone, okay? What it basically means is that roughly every 4 years, the supply of the amount of Bitcoin that are being produced and being released it literally halves. Okay, so I'm going to share with you a chart in a moment that explains this in a much better detail, but I just want to kind of cover and clarify the real basics here. Okay, so what this means is that when the amount of Bitcoin that are being produced and being produced at roughly every 4 years halves, it also halves the rewards for the miners who are mining the Bitcoin. Okay, now once again, we're going to be covering all this as well. Imagine if, for example, your fuel halved in supply every 4 years. What would happen to the price of fuel, right? If the amount of fuel that was in supply halved every 4 years, put a number one in the chat if you think the price of fuel would go up, or number two if you think the price of fuel would go down. Put a number one in the chat if you think the price of fuel would go up, if it halved every 4 years, the supply of fuel halved every 4 years, or down, right? Okay, obviously everyone here in the live chat has put in a bunch of ones, so thank you all for that. Absolutely, Judy and Oscar and Paul. Thank you, James, Rob, Ross, Debbie. Thank you so much. So, of course, right, it's going to go up, and we're going to be talking about this the words supply and demand. Put a yes in the chat for me if you've heard the term supply and demand before. Yeah, awesome. Okay, cool. Let me know in the chat if you haven't heard of supply and demand before, and that's okay if you haven't, okay? Because obviously what we're covering here is a lot of topics that can be completely new to people, and that's okay. All right, so there's a lot of yeses in the chat. Okay, so most people seem to have heard of supply and demand before. Okay, great. And we're going to touch on that in just a moment as well. Then every 4 years, there's this supply and demand issue, right? So let's say the demand for that product, which for Bitcoin, obviously over time, there's a higher and higher demand for it. And the supply for that same product, which is Bitcoin, becomes less and less, right? So the demand is increasing, yet the supply is decreasing. So therefore, that is why we've seen Bitcoin rise to astronomical levels since its creation in 2009. It's rise to astronomical levels because quite simply, the demand for the product continues to rise because it's the hardest money on planet Earth, and we're going to go through all this in the coming modules, so you have a true understanding of just how incredible this technology is. If we think about this from a fiat standpoint or a cash standpoint, money standpoint, now once again, don't get me wrong, I love cash. In my opinion, absolutely, cash is king. I believe cash is freedom as well, but I'm also a very much a realist. Okay. So when I say that, and I'm very much a realist, what I mean is that, are we moving into, let me know in the chat right now, guys, put a number one if we're moving into a more digital world, or a number two if we're moving into a more paper world, right? Put a number one if we're going into a more digital world, number two if we're going to hang around with paper, right? Of course, everyone's putting a number one in there, okay? So what we have is that we're moving into a more digital world. So therefore, obviously, what we're getting is the demand for this product is rising, and then we have the supply for that same product decreasing. Now, obviously, if we're moving into a more digital world, then what we need to know and understand is that this is going to be a continuation. This isn't going to be something that's just going to be a fly by the night thing. And I've heard this so many times, and we won't go into detail into this module, but I've heard it so many times. You could imagine the amount of times I've heard it myself, being in the market for the last 8 years, but you may have heard it yourself over the last, maybe you've been in the market 6 months, 12 months, maybe it's only been a month or so. But there's probably been someone that said, "Oh, geez, are you buying Bitcoin? Are you buying cryptocurrency? Like, that's way too speculative for me." But then once you start realizing, and I say it's and there's a saying in the Bitcoin and crypto community that if you've done 100 hours of study of Bitcoin, there's no possible way that you could possibly think, if you have some kind of level of intelligence, that you could possibly think that over time, fiat or cash or government issued currency is not going to go down against Bitcoin, right? It's absolutely inevitable. So hopefully that's why you're here, and hopefully that's why you're here to kind of understand and get a better idea of how this all goes down. So let's talk about the new Bitcoins mined, which are created effectively every day. Okay, so back in when Bitcoin was created on the 3rd of January 2009, as you can see on the left here, originally there was 7,200 Bitcoins per day that were mined, that were sent out into into the chain, right? Now, after the first halving in November 2012, that halved to 3,600. Okay, so it halved to 3,600 at the first halving, November 2012. Now, when we got to the second halving in July 2016, once again, half of 3,600 is 1,800. So once again, the amount of Bitcoins that are created per day now go down to 1,800. And then when we hit the third halving in May 2020, once again, we've halved in the amount of supply getting created. So therefore, we're down to 900 per day. And just occurring this year, the fourth halving in April 2024. So as I speak, as I'm recording this video, we currently have 450 Bitcoins per day that are getting created, all right, or getting mined, as we like to call it. So as you can see, this is in direct conflict or directly or completely opposite to how cash money is created, right? Obviously, once again, this isn't the module or the forum for it. But when we talk about money, it's quite simply just printed. Okay. Money is printed. It's not backed by absolutely anything. Since 1972, since the gold, since cash got taken off the gold standard, where we are right now is that quite simply money, it can just be printed at will. And we've seen that, all right? We've seen that printed at will so many times, and we're witnessing it right now. Who else feels like they need to get a personal loan out every time they go to do the weekly grocery shops? Yeah, let me know in the chat. Who feels like they need to, the amount of bang for your buck has drastically reduced, especially over the last few years, right? Drastically reduced. And that's telling. Where we are right now is at a point in time, or a juncture, shall we say, that the money printing is completely and absolutely out of control. So like I said before, once, for anyone with any kind of intelligence that's done some uh, um, investigations or learning around Bitcoin, we usually say if they've done the 100-hour test, which is study Bitcoin for 100 hours, there is no one that I know that has done that, that has then uh, looked at Bitcoin and thought, oh, geez, this isn't worth as much as cash, because that just absolutely is not possible. Yeah, exactly right. Debbie says in the chat, lucky I've got my own chickens. Absolutely, because it's crazy, right? Eggs are insane. 10.25 a dozen, says George, right? It's just crazy. Prices are going absolutely through the roof. So if we talk about this, like I said before, the Bitcoin halving's effect on price. Now, when I talk about this, I want to kind of also um, share that, in my opinion, this is just one of many different theories. There's a lot of people out there, which is completely fine, that believe that the actual halving doesn't have that much to do with the effect of price going up. Myself personally, I feel like it contributes to the price. The fact that less and less and less are produced over time. But there's so much of this Bitcoin 4-year cycle that, in my opinion, really plays into human behavior. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in future modules, but it really plays into human behavior. So as you can see here, right, once we can see the amount of Bitcoins that are supplied, right, we can see that here on the left. And then as we have the halving, less and less of those Bitcoins are supplied. Yeah, less and less of them are supplied as each halving happens, and more Bitcoins are produced. But yet the demand is still going up. So what happens to price? Price goes up as well, okay? Because the demand for a product continuously increases, the supply for that same product continuously decreases, and that's literally coded in. That can never ever be changed in Bitcoin's code. So therefore, what we have is a product that consistently goes up against dollar, all right, or the pound or the yen or whatever your government issued currency is. It consistently goes up against that. So previous halvings have resulted in boom, or what we call bull markets, bull cycles, and bust or bear cycles. Okay. Now, it turns out that these cycles have trends, okay, and it gives us a fair indication of what is going to happen in the future. Who else has heard the term before that history repeats itself? Yeah, have you heard that term before? I know I have, and how often have we seen that in humanity and in the culture of where we've been, right? We have this incredible way that we seem to quite often either repeat the same things, or go back to the same things eventually, right? And once again, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole in this particular module, but us humans, us human beings, we are very, very cyclical creatures, right? We don't mind the old cycle, which means that we go through these cycles, and the investment market or the stock market or the crypto market or any other market is no different, okay? It goes through these cycles. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the components of the 4-year Bitcoin cycle. And what we have here is we have periods of time, and I'm going to call this just, let's say, around about a year of a bull market, followed by approximately a year of a bearish market, followed by approximately 2 years of consolidation and recovery into the next halving, which then kind of leads us up into the next bull market. And we can see that what happens after the halvings, well, what we see quite often is that we have this period of time where we have this steep increase after that. We go into this bull market, hitting a top, and once again, what is smart money doing? They're purchasing down here, right? As we're recording this video, this is literally where we are. We've just had the halving. We're down here, right? Smart money is purchasing down here and then riding this wave up and exiting for profits at the top as the market corrects itself. And then, this is when we do the process, which you're going to learn in the future modules. You're going to learn about how we dollar cost average, or what I like to call in the book, feed the beast, which is essentially feeding our portfolio as it goes through this consolidation and recovery period back into the next bull market. Now, it's extremely important, extremely important to recognize and understand that we always need to be adaptive to what's happening. Now, previous cycles and the previous history of Bitcoin tells us that we go through these 4-year cycles. Now, does that mean that for Bitcoin's existence into the future, we're always going to go through 4-year cycles? Of course not. Of course, that doesn't mean that, right? We need to be adaptive to whatever the market is telling us. So currently, this is what the market is telling us. This is how these things play out. The last 3 bull markets, bear markets, consolidation period has literally played out, as you can see on the screen here. All right, obviously not to the exact to the exact nth degree, but I mean it's played out in this in this rough kind of format, right? We've had a year of a bull market, usually a year or so of a bull market after a halving, down, followed by a correction of a year or so of a bear market, consolidation, recovery of a couple of years into the next halving, followed by another bull market. Now, we've had this cycle happen, well, 3 times now, okay? And where we are now is going into this 4th kind of period, all right? Yeah, that's a good point that George said. You can kind of think of it like fashions, right? Fashions that people wear, clothes that people wear, yeah, good point, Laurie. Same as the weather, right? It goes through these cycles. So what I like to call this, and for those who currently have the book and are looking at it, and for those who may not have received the book yet, that's okay. You'll see this in the book and this illustration in the book. I like to call these crypto seasons, okay? So in a crypto season, we have a sell or a harvest season, right? This is when we harvest our crops. And then as the market corrects down, we're having what's called a buying, or we're planting all the seeds for the next harvest, yeah? We go into a growing season, and then we go back into a selling and harvesting season, okay? Now, once again, at the moment, the market tells us that this takes place every 4 years. Now, nothing in this world is ever certain. In the future, this may change and we need to adapt to whatever the cycle is that the market is telling us. But this is literally what history is telling us, and how multimillionaires have been created in crypto over and over and over again over previous cycles, is because they're playing the smart investor game here. What they're doing is they're buying or planting all their seeds in this bottom period here as we go into the growing season, and then they're selling and harvesting and taking their profits at the top of the next markets. So that is what we're going through here. Okay. Now where we are right now, as I'm talking, we just had the halving only a couple of months ago. So we're kind of coming out of this back end of buying slash planting season. Okay. So we're still in this period of time where we are still kind of in this back end of the buying and planting season, but we're heading very quickly into this growing season, which we're then going to get up to this top kind of period, which is our selling or harvesting season when we take profits. Okay, so this is the kind of I guess you could say cycle that we seem to go through with crypto, and I call these crypto seasons. Now we're also going to talk about, as well, we're going to talk about, does Bitcoin kind of run the same kind of season as what altcoins do, right? Now, I mentioned this before, altcoins, also known as alternate coins or alternative coins, they're called either, they're shortened to alt, ALT, altcoins. Now, every single coin apart from Bitcoin is an altcoin. Even Ethereum, all the other coins apart from Bitcoin is an altcoin, because Bitcoin obviously was the first coin created. Then every other coin after that is an alternate coin, right? Alternative coin, which is an altcoin. Now, Bitcoin and altcoins, they do tend to have slightly different seasons as well, kind of based around the same kind of figures as what we have here. But we're going to talk about that as well in future slides as well. Okay. So let's firstly hone in on the 4-year Bitcoin cycle, right? So let's talk about the 4-year Bitcoin cycle. And that's actually a good question. Rob's asked in the chat there, what do you sell into? Yes, so what we'll be learning about in future modules as well, Rob, will be we sell into what's called stable coins at the top, which are effectively coins that are pegged to the US dollar, okay? But once again, that's just one way that you can sell or harvest what you get at the top of the cycle. You can also quite simply just, sell your crypto straight into cash if you prefer that. Or some people never sell and they quite simply just keep accumulating as they go. So there's lots of different ways here, but obviously what we're teaching here is how you can capitalize on the crypto markets as a whole. Okay, so let's talk about this here when we talk about the 4-year Bitcoin cycle. Now, here in the bear market, right, this dip that we have that we're kind of just coming out of, this is when the experts are buying, right? This is when the smart money is buying. Now, as we start to move up and we have some kind of, sometimes it doesn't always just go up in a vertical direction. We learn this. And I hope that for all those who are brand new to this, you understand that when we go into the growing season, oh, Troy, are we just going to go up in a straight line? Absolutely not. We're going to have corrections. We're going to have consolidation periods until we potentially get to these peaks. But this is when the experts are buying, right? When the market is dipping, and then we go through growing consolidation kind of periods, but then a lot of growing here. And this is when most people buy, right? So experts are buying here. Most people will be buying near the top of the market. Now, that is not, now you may be listening to this video and go, wow, that's actually when I bought. I bought in it December 2017, or I bought November 2021. That potentially may be what you're looking at here thinking, wow, I can't believe that's where I actually bought. I was kind of like, I guess you could say, followed the sheep and bought when everyone else is, but that's okay. The main thing is here that you're learning that is not where experts buy. Experts are buying down the bottom here. So when the herd or all the sheep are buying as the prices are shooting up, that's when the experts are starting to plan when they're going to be selling, or potentially moving into stable coins, or selling their crypto back into cash, or into gold maybe, or whatever they want to do, right? That is what is happening here. So experts buy down the bottom. Most people seem to buy here, and experts are selling at the top. So obviously, what do we want to be doing? We want to be doing what the experts are doing. Yeah, we want to be doing what the smart investors doing, which is essentially the smart money. Okay, we don't want to be dumb money, because dumb money buys near the top of the market, and dumb money then sells near the bottom of the market, right? They buy at the top, They get shaken out here because they think it's just going to keep going up. It drops off a cliff edge. It goes all the way down. They freak out here, and this is when they sell. And who do they sell to at the bottom of the market? Let me know in the chat right now. When it's going down and the dumb money and the dumb investors are selling near the bottom of the market, what investors are capitalizing on that? I love how people wrote that. Debbie, Alan, Bronwyn, Jeff, us. Exactly. That is what we're doing. We're the experts. We're the smart investors. Exactly right, Salome. We are purchasing at the bottom, right? That's when experts buy. But unfortunately, most people, this is when they're selling. They're selling as the market is capitulating. They're selling and because they're freaking out that their money's going to go down. But the experts are buying here, right? So if this is your first cycle and this is your first, I guess, foray into Bitcoin and into crypto, then just know and understand that you're going to go through one heck of a roller coaster ride, okay? Especially if history repeats itself and we go into an incredible euphoric period at the top of a bull cycle. With all moves up, right? What goes up must come down, okay? And then at the bottom here, we want to be buying back in. We don't want to be the people selling, holding on to the coins too long and then selling at the bottom, right? We want to be selling with profits at the top, the same way the experts are doing. So let's have a quick look at post-halving Bitcoin run-ups. Let's have a look at the history of post-halving Bitcoin run-ups. Now, this one here is the first halving, which happened in November 2012. This little green dot here is the first halving, right? What happened here? Well, we saw it move up a little bit of consolidation. Wow, up into a huge bull market cycle. The second halving was here. Now, not all these are identical, right? Of course, they're not all identical, but they still play the same kind of path. July 2016, what did we see here? We saw the second halving happen here, but then we saw a drop off. But then what did we see? Followed by a big bull cycle after it. Once again here with the third halving in May 2020, right? We've got here into a long period of consolidation, a bull market, a correction, and then bang, straight up into another large bull market. And this is where we are, or where we were a few months ago, guys. In April 2024, where this green dot is, okay, this is where we were. This is where the fourth halving took place, right? Now, obviously, I've just put a shade in here, kind of based on, right, the average of what's happened in the previous three cycles. Now, when you see the last three cycles laid out on the screen like that, and you see where we are, right, where my mouse is, where we are after the fourth halving in this cycle, can you now understand how exciting slash incredible this opportunity can potentially be as we move forward into the very near future? Yeah, everyone can understand just how incredible this opportunity is. Like, this is literally where we are right now and what we have the potential of doing based on historical data. And this is what I always show. And for as long as I've been teaching Bitcoin and crypto, I've never gone into the hype side of it, because you don't need to. Purely all you need to do here is talk about facts, figures, and data. And the facts, figures, and data literally tell us what you see on the screen. It literally tells us that when we have these halving events, we get these astronomical moves up that happen within the next kind of 12 to 18 months, right? That's what seemed to happen. November 2012 was the halving. We saw I don't know if these are the exact dates, but very close to it. We saw a high of Bitcoin of around $1,000 in December 2013, right? 13 months later. July 2016 was when the second halving occurred. And we saw a high of $20,000 in December 2017. So around about 18 months later. May 2020 was when the third halving happened, and we saw a high in Bitcoin of around 69,000 US dollars in November 2021, so about 18 months later. So if we kind of play this out where we are from April 2024, we've had the halving event, then you could kind of, measure out based on historical data and based on previous data that we're going through the same kind of cycle, right? Which is extremely exciting and is an extremely good time, in my opinion, to look at as a massive opportunity potentially of where we can go, okay, and what is actually possible over the next kind of 12 to 18 months. So it's an extremely, extremely exciting time to be alive. So let's talk about, okay, let's talk about what will happen to price when no more Bitcoin is actually available on exchanges. Now, going back maybe 3 or 4 years ago, even, maybe even as soon, like only as recent as that, when I talked about this theory, a lot of people, you could imagine, laughed, right? And scoffed at me and was like, Troy, seriously, like there will ever be that. Now, but what actually happens when that price gets so extraordinarily high, right? What actually happens there, right? So like traditional trading markets, where fiber optic into exchanges, right? It's bought as soon as it's available. Now, that's what usually happens, but it can become very hard or even impossible for the average person to buy it over time. And we're noticing this, right? And there's so many people that join the crypto community, and they say to me, they say, "Oh, Troy, I don't have any Bitcoin in my portfolio because I can't afford it." And I said, "Oh, okay, what? Why is that? Just because obviously I know that they can buy quite simply just a Satoshi worth." And that's when they mentioned, "Well, I can't afford it, Troy, because I can't afford what the price is now, around 60 to 70,000 US dollars." And I'm like, "You do realize you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin?" And so that is a common misconception as people, beginners, join the market, right? So, like I mentioned before, imagine if fuel kept halving in supply over time. Imagine if there was limited petrol available. What would happen to the price of petrol, right? It's very similar. The price would go up a lot, right? And we've seen this in the past where there's been potential conflicts in the Middle East and things like that. What's happened to the price of oil, right? It's gone up through the roof, right? That's what's kind of happened. And so we're witnessing this, and we see this with lots of other products. Bitcoin is no different. Bitcoin is absolutely no different. So when we talk about this theory of what will actually happen to the price when there are no more Bitcoin available on exchanges, now obviously I'm not talking about there's zero of them available eventually, but there could become a period of time, and I believe there will become a period of time where the price is so extremely high that it's going to be incredibly hard to be able to purchase any, right? And I've affectionately called this time, and for those who don't have the book yet, obviously you'll receive it soon. I affectionately call that time B Day, right? Bitcoin supply shock, demand shock, and B Day, right? BDAY. Obviously short for Bitcoin Day, right? I call that period of time B Day. It's when all available supply on exchanges is gone and Bitcoin's price appreciates rapidly and exponentially. So what we'll see is exponential Bitcoin demand, rapidly diminishing supply on exchanges, which is something that we've already seen, right? We've already seen a drop in supply on exchanges on Bitcoin in recent times. And this will equal B Day, which literally means that there's no available supply on any exchanges. An exponential price will then occur. All right. We'll start seeing exponential price increases. Now, in my opinion, this period of time, or this day that I affectionately call B Day, I don't think it's in that too distant of the future, right? I really believe that that period of time could become very, very soon. Exactly right, Judy. It might happen very soon. And I believe it's an extremely likely possibility because as we are moving through time, we're realizing, and I mean, for those who are brand new, you may not have heard, but earlier this year, the Bitcoin spot ETF got approved, which basically gave the green light for institutional funds like BlackRock and Fidelity and all these massive, massive financial institutions to start purchasing Bitcoin through their funds, and that is a massive reason why we saw such a huge move up in price with Bitcoin. But this this is going to come to a time where B-Day occurs, and we're going to see exponential price increases, right? As it becomes more valuable, quite simply, more people want it, right? And this is effectively what you see on the screen there, the snowball effect, right? Perpetual motion. Okay, we could be building towards what's also known affectionately in the crypto market as a God candle, right? Which is literally a massive green line upwards. Okay, now some believe it could go as high as $1 million and beyond a Bitcoin in the next year or so as the supply starts to drive up. And once again, if someone had said that to me 3 or 4 years ago, I would have basically laughed and said, "There's no way that that is possible by the years 2024, 25, or anything like that." But as the world gets crazier and crazier, and more money is printed in the trillions, then real world assets like Bitcoin, hard assets, the hardest money in the world, like Bitcoin, is only going to go up against government issued currencies, right? The more government issued currencies get printed. So in a way, I say to people I laugh about, I say, long live the US dollar. Because as long as I own Bitcoin and cryptos, there's a very good chance that they're going to keep going up against it, right? I've never seen anything like this in terms of supply and demand in all of my life, and it's only just getting started. And we'll see this as more nation states and pension funds buy it. It's actually becoming literally the reserve asset of the world, which once again, if someone had have said that to me, what's the possibility of Bitcoin becoming the reserve asset, or of the world, I would have probably laughed. But now, not so much. We only just had in recent times, we had a presidential candidate, RFK Jr., literally say at the Bitcoin conference in 2024 that he would be purchasing, I think it was like $3 or $4 million worth of 3 or 4 million Bitcoin, like literal Bitcoin, not $1 million worth, to literally use as reserves for in the U.S. Treasury, which is just bizarre. Like, to me, if once again, if someone had said that to me years ago when I first got into Bitcoin and crypto, I would have just gone, "That's just not possible." But this is where we are now, right? This is the talk that's happening now, right? We had two out of the three U.S. presidential candidates talk at Bitcoin 2024. We had RFK Jr. and Donald Trump talk there. So two out of the three presidential candidates talking at the Bitcoin conference, they understand and they're realizing that this is not going away. It's not going anywhere. And this is what is called, as I said, the snowball effect. Now, I believe Bitcoin in the future will overtake gold, and I believe that's going to come very, very soon. What we're seeing, Bitcoin is literally digital gold. Um, uh, Robert Kiyosaki, who's an incredible mentor and amazing teacher, he says it. He says that gold is God's money, but Bitcoin, it's people's money, right? So I figured this out, right? I figured this out that it's going to overtake gold, and I figured this out just how massive this was going to be. Now, did I realize it was going to be this massive back in 2016 when I got into it? No, I didn't, but I figured it out a heck of a lot earlier than other people, and I'm so happy that you all are either here live or watching this recording and listening to this recording to understand the kind of opportunity and just how massive um this actually is, right? Now, it's taken longer than I thought it would, but it's here now, and it's happening very, very quickly. And there's so many rumors going around about nation states. I know there was Qatar being mentioned about buying $500 billion worth, and all these kind of incredible rumors going around, and this is what's going to happen. More governments are going to start to buy it. Okay, we've already got El Salvador. It's legal tender in their country, and they literally that the government literally buys Bitcoin to hold in their reserves. And that's what we're going to, I believe, what we're going to see more and more of. So that's Bitcoin, right? So we've covered Bitcoin. And like I said before, what about the altcoins? So what about all the alternative coins or altcoins as they're called, right? Because obviously there's only one Bitcoin, but there's well over 20,000 other altcoins. Well, the altcoins historically follow the Bitcoin cycle, right? Now, that's what's happened historically. Now, obviously, we need to always adapt to whatever the market's telling us, but historically, that is what's happened. Now, when Bitcoin pumps up and starts getting some real momentum behind it, usually what happens is that large market cap coins will pump up next, and that then it's followed by more lower market cap coins. So obviously even smaller coins after that. And that's kind of how the cycle works. Now, I go into obviously I do go into more detail in this in the book, but this is how those cycles work. When Bitcoin goes down, what we need to understand as well, though, alts go down. Now, will that change in the future? Well, it may change in the future, but at the moment, Bitcoin really does have a way of determining whether the market's going to be healthy or not. Now, obviously, there's periods of time where Ethereum performs much better than Bitcoin. There's periods of time where other coins perform much better than Bitcoin. But the overall sentiment is that if Bitcoin's going up, the market's going to follow. If Bitcoin's going down, the market's going to go down even harder, right? Altcoins go up and down in bigger swings than Bitcoin. So that's another thing to be really aware and conscious of as well. Who's seen that recently? Who you may have some crypto in your portfolio, and who's seen that when there's a correction or movement down in the market that Bitcoin doesn't usually go anywhere near as far down as what your altcoins will go, right? Usually your altcoins will, as we call, bleed even more. They'll lose even more than Bitcoin. Yeah, exactly, right. So when corrections happen, that's going to happen in the market. And that's inevitable because that's what markets do. They go up and they go down and they correct and they rebound and they do their thing. But what happens 99% of the time is that Bitcoin doesn't crash as hard as the altcoins do. The altcoins seem to bleed a lot more. And there's lots of theories behind this, and lots of ideas behind this. But quite simply, to keep it really simple and easy for everyone, it's in my opinion, it's quite simple. It's because Bitcoin is numero uno, right? It's the number one coin. It has the most liquidity. It has the most volume, so therefore it's going to be able to withstand more violent moves. And this is what you can see here is how Bitcoin drives the market, right? So quite simply, you've got the first arrow here, which is Bitcoin over time moving up. And then what we often find is that after that, we've got higher market cap altcoins, which are kind of in tow behind Bitcoin, right? So we'll have Bitcoin moving up, followed by the higher market cap altcoins. And finally, at the end, you'll have the lower market cap altcoins moving up as well. Now, it's important to understand and realize that this is how the market plays out. Now, once again, right now, this is how the market plays out as we stand right now within the Bitcoin 4-year cycle. This is how the market plays out. But once again, we've got to be adaptive to what is happening in the market. Now, you will find this when we move. Obviously, the next module is going to be narratives, but when we move into portfolio, you'll find when I start talking about this and I talk to you all about a winning portfolio strategy. Now, you guys will notice that that's a bonus module, number 3 in the membership section is when I kind of talk about the winning portfolio strategy. And we're going to go into much deeper detail about the winning portfolio strategy in the third step of the crypto Pentagon. But it's important to know and understand that higher market cap altcoins follow Bitcoin, followed by lower market cap altcoins. But as we start expanding out and we start going into those lower market cap, we start getting more and more risky. Okay. That's why, in my opinion,
it just makes so much more sense to have a large position in Bitcoin, the same size, or even, around the same size in higher market cap altcoins, and then having a smaller portion in lower market cap altcoins. Now, if you go to the bonus module, which is module 3, obviously it was fast tracked, and I speak about that in the module, but I talk about in that module how how we use Bitcoin as 40% of the portfolio and 40% is high market cap altcoins. And I talk about the different altcoins that I'm looking at and things like that. But essentially, Bitcoin, in my opinion, is your safest bet in this crypto market, right? It is where it started. It's where the most amount of money flows. It's where the massive pension funds are buying into. Yes, of course, we've had an Ethereum spot ETF get approved, and we're starting to see inflows into Ethereum. There's talks and rumors that a Solana ETF is going to get approved, and things like that. But ultimately, Bitcoin is your numero uno, right? Your number one. Ultimately, Bitcoin is the one that in my opinion is where you can make that good, solid investment for lengthy periods of time. If you can really focus on, okay, there's cycles here, and if I'm investing at these lower points, then ultimately my money is going to be worth more at a point in the future, and you start understanding how these cycles work, well, then you can start delving into deeper areas of just how incredible this market can go. And there's a lot of people who will talk about this when it comes to other altcoins and things like that. Now, obviously, I'm a fan of other altcoins as well to make returns and make money. But ultimately, Bitcoin is the big dog here. Ultimately, Bitcoin is the one where I believe is the true real growth, and I guess you could call it the digital gold. So, as we wrap this up, and I'm going to answer a few questions here in the chat as well, I'll quickly touch on where we'll be going next. Obviously, we'll be going into the next module, which is winning narratives. Now, this is where I start talking about, the different narratives that the market brings up, and where we're kind of at. I'm going to share with you some of the narratives that I believe are narratives that are absolutely winning narratives in this current cycle, in this current market cycle, narratives that I believe you could potentially look at, potentially invest in, to get some pretty amazing returns, right? So, winning narratives is something that's super important in within the cycles, because if you're on the right narratives at the right time, it's going to allow you to get even more growth, okay? More growth within that market cycle period. So ultimately what we're here for, we're here to be able to get the maximum amount of growth, because what we want to do, and we're going to touch on this more as we go into the future modules, but ultimately what we want to be doing here is what we call in crypto stacking sats, right? Stacking Satoshis, stacking as much Bitcoin as we possibly can, because that is where the true that is where the true wealth will be created. So let me have a look here at these questions. Yes, Raymond, a replay of module 3, if you want to watch out the bonus module, it's in your membership area, Raymond. So yeah, just go back and click on that and you can watch it. James has asked a good question. Does Bitcoin halving really matter if more is going to be mined in the future? And look, it's a good question, James. I mean, effectively, what'll happen? There'll always be more Bitcoin mined up until I believe it's around the year 2130, which is, around 100 years or so away. So long after any of us have to worry about it. But um, there's always going to be less and less Bitcoin mined until the last Bitcoin is mined in around 100 or so years' time, James. But um, but yeah, I mean, effectively, what is set up with the Bitcoin code is that there's less of them created over time. So it's the reverse effect on what fiat currency has, James, but reverse effect on cash. Um, but yeah, in my opinion, yeah, the Bitcoin halving matters right now, but is it going to matter in future cycles? Well, who knows? Who knows? It may not. That's very possible, and we need to adapt to whatever the market's telling us. You should never be married to a particular a particular cycle or narrative or whatever it is, because the market doesn't care what you think. You need to understand what the market is doing. That's what's so important. Um, Paul's asked, how much is higher market cap altcoins? So when we talk about a higher market cap, Paul, it's really difficult to put a dollar value on it, but we're essentially talking like the top 30 coins, right? Top 30, maybe stretching out to the top 40, like higher market cap, right? We're not talking about a market cap of $1 million, right? We're usually talking a market cap, potentially of over $1 billion. But yeah, they're essentially higher market cap coins. But if you want to see the ones that I'm talking about, Paul, you can go back to the bonus module number 3, in your membership section, and the replays there, and you'll hear me talk about that. Yeah, thank you, George. It's going to be good fun. The narratives part is a really interesting area, because that's where we really start putting our stakes in various fires. Um, Leonora has asked, does inflation also add to the value and increase in Bitcoin's price? Yeah, Leonora, look, I think effectively it does, because inflation is created through. I mean, there's it's not as simple as this, but effectively it's the printing of money, right? It's the overprinting of money. If you print so much of something, of course it's going to consistently be devalued. And inflation is one of those things that come out of that. So I believe it's a key factor that adds to the case of Bitcoin, Leonora, I think is how I would say it. Sam's asked, when it's time to sell, do we sell all of it or a percentage of what we hold? Do we dollar cost average or some? Yeah, so great question, Sam. And there is no answer to it. But what I will say this, Sam, what I will say to this, Sam, is that um, as you go through this journey and this cycle, you will realize what you're most comfortable with doing. Now, you may be the kind of person that has high conviction, and what you've purchased into, you truly believe in, and maybe what you do is you simply just dollar cost average into that over multiple years, right? At the most opportune times, when the smart money is doing it. Or you may feel that, well, you know what, I've played out this market cycle over the last 4 years. Now I want to start taking some of the profit at the top and skimming it off. Maybe you want to go purchase something else, a real world asset, or maybe whatever it is that you want to purchase. So the answer to your question, Sam, you could sell all of it. Absolutely. There's some people that sell just some of it and hold on to some of it. There's other people that don't sell any of it, right? And they simply just buy at all the smart investor, where all the smart investors are buying after corrections. But the whole idea here, of what I'm sharing and showing with these modules, and what am I going to be doing, is what I will be doing is I will be, I've and the people who have been with me in the community have been hearing me say this for the last couple of years, is the best time to be purchasing crypto right now when it's down. And as after it goes up, which hopefully does happen in this current bull cycle, then we'll be I'll personally be selling, yeah, pretty much the majority, if not all of that, at the top, or exiting the positions at least into stable coins, to then rebuy once the market corrects itself. Okay, so yeah, that's the idea. But yeah, we can't say a blanket answer of what everyone's going to do, because everyone's in different circumstances. So no worries, Sam. You're welcome. All right, guys. So that wraps up. That wraps up this module on the Bitcoin 4-year cycle.
I would, yeah, obviously recommend if there's anything you want to catch up on before we get into the next module, please go and do that now. Go back onto previous modules and check them out, or rewatch this one if you like. But next one's going to be super exciting. It is one of my favorite topics, which is winning narratives. I love the crypto ecosystem, and I love all the different narratives that are within it. So I want to thank you all for your time. Thank you all for being here. For everyone who is live, if you're watching this recording, thank you for sitting through the recording and watching this. And I hope you got a lot out of it. As I said, this is very much directed towards a beginner audience. Obviously, if you're intermediate or advanced, you may watch this and get a few things out of it. But obviously, this is directed towards a beginner audience. As we build up, we need to build those solid foundations to be to really be able to capitalize on this market. Okay. So once again, guys, I want to thank you all very much. Now, before our next module, if you have any questions at all, feel free to email the team. The support team will answer whatever questions you have. But other than that, if you're watching these recordings, then I'll see you on the next module as well. Winning narratives. But for now, it's bye for now. See you soon.